Blog Talk Radio.
It's the E-Water Show.
It's the E-Water Show. It's the E-Water Show. E-Water Show. E-Water Show. E-Water Show. It's the E-Water Show. E-Water Show. It's the E-Water Show. It's the E-Water Show. E-Water Show. E-Water Show. E-Water Show. It's the E-Water Show. E-Water Show. E-Water Show.
All right. Well, first of all, welcome to the E-Water Show on E-Water Radio, KEWR. I'd like to introduce everyone to a gentleman. It's an artist, just an incredible, goes beyond the word incredible when it comes to art and just the art world. I would like to introduce Yermo. And Miss Destini Williams will be taking it from here. Go ahead, young lady.
Okay. Thank you. So first, let me say it is an honor to do this interview with you, and I am probably going to mispronounce everything. So that's probably going to happen. So you have to work with me.
All right.
My first, so don't be mad at me. So my first question is, you went to SDSU, San Diego State.
Yes.
And that's, from what I'm getting from all the articles that I read, and then I kind of want to get away from the articles because I kind of want to get into you a little bit more.
Yes.
Was that like the beginning of everything, you going to this college and what was going on politically in San Diego at that time?
That was what you would say probably one aspect of my life, being a student or going back to school. Actually, I had gone into military service, and when I got out, I wanted to go back to school, and I managed to go back to school, and I was involved with the farm workers, Cesar Chavez and the farm workers union in the struggle, the boycott against grapes. I got involved with Mecha. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. So there was a long series of events that took place that finally took me to San Diego State. So I assume that we're talking specifically in regards to art. My life has had many different roads that I've traveled at one time. And when I look at it, it was because of art. Because of that desire, that love, that passion to paint, to create. And what I found out with murals is to begin to awaken people, influence people, educate people. So, did I answer your question?
Yeah, and you did, because when I was reading over kind of a lot of the articles and kind of researching, it just left me hungry for a little bit more of where this inspiration came from these beautiful murals. I know that the one that you did in San Diego, which I going to go out on a limb and say this is your maybe the one you're most proud of. Correct me if I'm wrong. The one that you did with Mr. Ramirez and Deonde, is that the one for you, or?
In the winter of 1969, a fellow student, Viviana Fermeno, brought this individual to my house. And I remember that night really good because when I opened the door, it was wet outside. The reflection of light from the street lamps. It was a beautiful, crisp night, and she had this guy with him. He was a muralist from Mexico, Gilberto Ramirez. He had left Mexico. He had come to see what was going on in the United States because he kept hearing about a Chicano movement. The civil rights movement was happening. There was so much happening at that time, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Kent State, you know, maybe people forgot about Kent State, you know, or the Chicano in L.A., 1970, August.
Absolutely.
You know, there was a lot of activity happening in the late 60s, the early 70s. And so this individual, Gilberto, came. I invited him into the house. I remember him sitting down, and he had this roll of paper in his hand. And Viviana begins to introduce him, tell me a little bit about him, what he was hoping to do while here. And that's when he unraveled this piece of paper, and on it was this drawing, beautiful drawing, in a vertical format of what is now there at San Diego State. So Gilberto had at some point in his apprenticeship had worked with Siqueiros, one of the Tres Grandes of Mexico. You know, you have Diego Rivera, you got Orozco, Jose Clemente Orozco, and then you got David Alfaro Siqueiros. And muralism.
I can never, ever pronounce those names as sexy as you do.
Yeah. Prior to Gilberto, you know, Viviana brought Gilberto to my house for a specific reason. She knew that as an artist, I was active in the Chicano movement, in the civil rights movement. I had at San Diego City, prior to going to San Diego State, I began using my art in celebration of Cinco de Mayo. You know, nobody knew what Cuauhtémoc looks like, or Hidalgo, or Morelos, or Zapata, or Villa, and so that was my job, you know. Hey, Guillermo.
Wow.
Hey, So here I go. So that meant that I had to educate myself, too. You know, okay, who are these guys, you know? So to me, art opened the door.
Right.
My whole concept of art changed when I started working with Gilberto, because a piece of art was something that you put on an easel, hang on your living room wall, maybe in your office, conference room. But now we're looking not at a small canvas, but we're looking at a wall. The whole concept, perception of it. And I immediately began to draw my work on drawings for my own drawing. That was in the fall of 1969. Gilberto worked on that mural from the winter of 69 till the spring of 70. In Rubén de Anda was another artist that had worked with us at that time. It was Rubén and myself. We apprenticed Gilberto, helping out wherever we could, not really knowing what we were doing, you know, this whole concept of mural painting. And then, you know, most artists create their pieces individually. Now we were doing a collaborative, or not a collaborative, but we were a group. There was more than one.
And how did that even work? Because in music you can picture, you do your harmony, you write your verse, how does that work when?
Well, you have to have a leader. You have to have a leader that is giving you the direction, the approval or disapproval.
Who's
That
the
was
leader?
Gilberto. That was his initiation.
Okay.
He initiated that mural. Gilberto was the leader on that mural that sparked, that lit a fire throughout San Diego. You know, that was in 69-70. You know, from that point, and that winter break, I took off for Mexico. I wanted to see what he was talking about. All these murals, these huge, massive paintings. You know, and so I did that. I went to Mexico. That was in the winter 69-70. You know, we had that break at San Diego State. Upon coming back, I noticed that my drawings changed tremendously. I was working on the drawings of my favorite mural, which is inside the Centro Cultural de la Raza in Balboa Park, San Diego, California. That one was my creation. But I'm involved in community too. You know, while we were working on that mural inside, you know, at the Centro, La Dualidad.
Is that
yes,
the one under the bridge? Is that the one that's under the bridge?
That one comes 3 years later.
Okay.
So we got, you know, Triptico, which was originally called Amanecer, which means the dawn, is what it was called. And then Triptico has become its name now. It's what people call it. And it's because it's got 3 sections to it, you know, present, future. And so Gilberto ignited a fire, you know. It's like I feel like I took a torch from his fire. I initiated the mural in the Centro. From there, we went to San Isidro, did a mural. A young artist that was working with me, Ernesto Paul, we call him Neto. He was from that area and got me to go down, and we did a couple of murals, one inside and one outside this little rec center, community center in San Isidro, and the little park outside. There was a wall, like a retaining wall, that we painted. But so in the murals that you're referring to, Chicano Park, the Chicano Park murals were initiated by Toltecas en Aztlán, which was a group of artists out of the Centro Cultural de la Raza, in 1973 on the 3rd anniversary of Chicano Park. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So,
and by the way, I don't think people are, I don't mean to cut you off, but I've kind of done a little bit of my research, but I don't think people are actually understanding how serious this movement actually was. So before you go back and describe this in 1973, do you mind going back into and describing to the people the Chicano movement and how it was, you know, it wasn't just the civil revolution going on. You guys had your own war going on, and so if you could kind of set the mood for what was actually happening at that time.
Sure. A lot of intensity. Intensity meaning, God, there was like one thing after another. Civil rights movement, student movement. It was happening on campus. It was on campuses. It was happening in communities, the different barrios. It was happening throughout all San. It was student activists, and it was also community activists, and what managed to move a lot of things. Civil rights movement, okay, people looking for job opportunities, educational opportunities, you know, financial opportunities, a realization that our situation as a community, as a people, was not very prosperous, not very healthy. It wasn't healthy for us physically. It was not healthy for us mentally or spiritually. You know, we fill the prisons. We're killing each other. You know, we're dying from drugs and alcohol. We're abusing those that are closest to us, as our families, our loved ones, because of a rage and a frustration that is deep inside from something that took place on this continent, you know, over 500 years. And art gave us the opportunity to express what was going on, what we were feeling. You know, we have a saying that goes, la cultura cura. Culture cures. It's a healing process. You know, we joke about people, you know, going to basket weaving classes in order to get their head together. Well, you know, that's kind of the same thing. It clears your mind. It allows you to look deep within yourself, you know. Gives you a new awareness, you know, a new consciousness. So there was a lot happening, physically, emotionally. You know, there was marches happening down the streets. Students were taking over buildings. Community was taking over buildings. Students and community working together were taking over buildings. We as an artist, a group of artists, had taken over a building in Belleville Park in 1969 or 68, latter part of 68, in order to have a working space. And that's what the Central came out of. The neighborhood house in Logan Heights had been taken over in order to make it relevant to the community it was in. The administration building at San Diego State was occupied, you know, because the administration was not responsive to student needs. There was so much happening, you know. It's the Chicano moratorium, you know, in East LA, you know, on August 29th, 1970, you know. When the police went crazy, the National Guard, Kent State was happening. You know, the National Guard opened fire on student protesters. There was a lot happening at that time. The intensity of it, I can't even begin to explain. But out of it, a lot of good things came out of it, you know. More educational opportunities. Not that there isn't need for it more, but some things did come out of it. Programs to serve specific communities, you know. I see more people of brown skin going to colleges, you know, universities, you know, programs geared toward youth. I see a lot of that, you know, but there's still a lot of need. Art.
Let me ask you this: where are you about what's going on in our country with the protests that are going on with the children compared to what was going on in the 60s? Was it more power? Was it a more powerful movement when in the 60s or now?
You know, I'm 75 years old. Okay, I'm 75 years old. I don't have, and this is a hard thing for me to come to realization, is I don't have the spunk that I used to have. Okay? In the 60s and 70s, for me personally, it was the prime of my life. 80s, 90s, you know. My life has taken in different roads, you know. I'm an Aztec dancer. I danced for over 40 years, you know. I learned jewelry making, working with silver and turquoise. I've done just about every facet of art and everything that comes to it. Through the art, in the beginning I said, art allowed me to find myself, or something to that effect. It gave me a focus in my life. It gave me identity. I could begin to learn about the history of this continent. I could begin to search images that reflected who I was. And so a cultural revolution was also born out of it. And that road is a whole nother story. I don't know if we want to go into that one, but
well, I kind of do, because why want to be in this continent when there's all this hate and you have a choice? It's kind of does that question make sense? Because
you asked me something, and my mind just goes with so many thoughts of so many things that were happening at that time, and the things that we believed at that moment. But I got to put it in context in regards to where I am at right now. I don't know if the student think what the student movement that's happening now is a resurgence of that energy. If I look back over time, the last 50 years, I was involved 1970 to 67. I think it's over 50 years now. We're celebrating this coming weekend, the 21st. We're celebrating the 40th anniversary of Chicano Park.
Yeah, we're going to get into that. Yeah, we're gonna talk about that. But so the mural at San Diego State triggered. I saw an explosion, like fires just bursting all over, beginning in San Diego and going out to L.A., Sacramento, San Francisco, Phoenix, Santa Fe, Dallas, people, artists. There was an explosion. That explosion happened in San Diego, because of the series of events, taking it back to this man, Gilberto Ramirez, that brought the concept of muralism to the San Diego area. Now, there was large paintings. I always think back when people point out, show me pictures. Well, look at this. This is 1965, but I see a large painting. There's a difference between a large painting and murals. Murals usually have a social context, educational, historical. And I probably got way off of where we were headed, and what you asked.
No,
you
not at all.
You got right into what we want to talk about, because we want to know the difference, because someone that really doesn't understand, and Ed's gonna, Ed, I'm sorry, but one thing that Ed and I talked about as we researched what it was that you really do, we realized this. Saying the word graffiti, I don't think even fits in, or it's just not right. So we actually we want to learn.
Yeah.
So please tell us.
Yeah. Well, there's so much, but with murals, murals. Can we move on that one?
Yeah.
Murals in Chicano Park. Okay, we started with Tríptico. Back up. Started with Tríptico. I started the La Dualidad. On La Dualidad, which is inside the Centro, and this is a mural, 16 feet by 46 feet. I worked on that mural from 1970 to 1984.
Wow.
14 years. 14 years. So during that time, I'm bouncing all over the place. I'm learning Aztec dances. We're going down to San Isidro to do murals. And 1973 came, and we initiated the walls at Chicano Park. So once people begin to see what we were doing in San Diego, then you heard about other places, things were beginning to happen. We had the first Chicano Cultural Center in San Diego, El Centro Cultural de la Raza. 1969, we got the water tank, North Water Tank, in the Pepper Grove picnic area in Balboa Park, San Diego, California. As a result of an occupation that took place of Ford building, that we were there for at least a year and a half to 2 years, negotiating with the city of San Diego. They showed us all kinds of different locations, and one was a little space, maybe 10 by 10 inside Spanish Village. You know, we looked at each other and we walked away. You know, we're talking about a cultural center, a place where folkloric dancers or Aztec dancers can come in and practice, and where we can have workshops, you know, of drawing and painting and sculpture and jewelry making and silk screen and photography and pottery and sculpture, you know, a place where we can do all these things. So we were looking for space, you know. And finally, in 69, the city of San Diego gave us that building. That became like a center of activity, you know. Students, community, people coming through every day, you know, workshops, projects. We would get portable. We had somebody build us a portable stage, so we were able to take it and set it up someplace in a park, in a community park, and bring the dancers, bring musicians. We would do exhibits around the area. We bought a portable, electric generator, and we just made sure we had gas and oil and 100-foot extension cord. And boom, we had amplifiers and speakers and mics, and, you know. So we started celebrating on the first anniversary, Chicano Park right there. But in between those celebrations, we would go out to other parks, talk about the centro, talk about murals, talk about culture, traditions. So those were some times, energy. You know, I can't do that anymore. But, you know, I try to support locally any groups, organizations that I see that are doing youth projects. Everything's about youth nowadays, you know.
Right.
And even then it was about youth. It was workshops for youth. You know, give them something, you know. Show them you care, you know. Yes.
Really quick, I want to get your opinion on a couple artists that have been out. Keith Haring. And I'm sure you know who Keith Haring is. Has done art, of course, and now he's doing Coach bags. I mean, of course, he's passed away, but how would you feel if your murals were put on Coach or Louis Vuitton bags or something like that? How would you feel about that?
Well, I heard something about that. I would not feel good about it. You know, I don't feel that somebody else should profit off the work of somebody else.
Ding ding.
That's what it is. That's what capitalism. You know, that whole technology capitalistic world that we live in. You know. So there's another aspect that we refer to, that we talk about, and that is decolonization, that mentality, that diet, our health, you know, our mind, our bodies, our spirit, you know. So, no, that's not good.
Sure.
And that's, unfortunately, that's a part of the dominant society that we live in, okay? Back then, we used to talk about living within the belly of the beast. Have you heard that term?
I have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think I've heard it again this past few years or so. We are living within the belly of the beast, you know, and it's an attitude. And what we're finding is it deals with exploitation of people. It deals with exploitation of the earth, to the extent that we're destroying everything that is around us. That which gives us life is destroying.
Do you think that they kind of exploit maybe Marilyn Monroe and Elvis and Keith Haring and like that whole thing where who knows if they, I mean, more so Keith Haring because his art, you know, is on a $500 Coach bag, and I don't think that's something that he would want to be doing. Andy Warhol, you know, was with Louis Vuitton, and so far after they passed away, but
yeah, there's so many specific areas that we just call that with disrespect, lack of consideration, lack of consciousness, and at the same time, it's a capitalistic move to profit off other people, you know, and everything in this society is about profit. We're approaching a time. We have approached a time. We need to concentrate on the environment around us. You know, there's so many issues out there. So basically, it comes down to make your own pouch, grow your own food. You know, because the more we consume, the more we perpetuate what is taking place. And art is a way that we can talk about those things, educate about those things. So,
I'd like to make a comment and ask your feeling on it. I've never been a person that has just been really what you call really expert when it came to art. So it may be a dumb question, but you know they say there's never a dumb question. The question's dumb is the one never asked. Growing up as a young man, the one thing that I realized, because I was exposed to a few, you know, artists coming up, and it seems like art is probably one of the last true, real art forms where there's a soul. And, you know, artists are like, okay, I won't do this. I refuse to do this because it goes against what my soul feels. Now, what are your feelings on that?
I'm trying to understand your question as much as possible.
Okay. In other words, there were a lot of artists growing up who had great art, and certain people wanted to do exhibitions, wanted to put them here, and they considered that, no, I don't want to do that. I want to keep it genuine, and if I put it in this gallery, I consider myself selling out.
Yeah, that's a. Okay, I was one of those. I was one of those. You know, I went to a few exhibits in different places and checked it out. You know, and looked around, and I didn't feel comfortable there. I didn't go back. You know, I don't feel someplace. If I don't feel comfortable someplace, I don't hang around there. I focus more on murals. I focus more on community. I've made a living through my mural projects. I live up in the Monterey, Santa Cruz area. I've have probably in these two San Benito and Santa Clara. I probably have close to about 100 murals up here that I've done in the last 25 years.
Wow.
You know, and all of them working with youth. You know, so I'm still doing.
I know me myself physically. I've seen your work. I used to live in a city which is close to where your area. I used to live in Salinas. I lived there for several years.
Yeah.
You know, Now, when we just speaking on art, right? Art, and I would say the word I'm looking for, art and activism.
Yes, it's a social. Rena, the educational system immediately cuts art funds. Okay, boom, we know this. We see this happening all the time. Boom, you start something and boom, funds are cut. Art is the first one to go. Art stimulates the consciousness. Art allows you to think. When you're in a creative mode, you actually transcend this moment that where you're at. You go into another plane mentally, maybe even spiritually. I've worked with clay. And I've had a thought in regards to the sculpture I'm working on, and my hand automatically just takes it. That's what I envisioned in my mind within that second. I was in another space. I've seen sculptures move. There's magic to it. There's healing to it. It touches the spirit. And so part of colonization is dehumanizing people so that we are not sensitive to these things.
Right.
And this goes for all people of all colors. We had to start in our communities, becoming aware of what is taking place around us. Why are our streets dirty? Why do we have all these junkyards here? Why do the majority, 300 or more brown-skinned students begun high school along with me? By the end of my third year, there was like 30 or 40 of them. Where did they go? All of these people dropping out. A lot of them had to do with employment. A lot of them had to do with not being academically prepared or assisted. Why do we fill the prisons? So a lot of this stuff hit home. Right. Why did I search to Mexico for images, that I could put into my work? How in school I was being told, look toward the European masters, But I wanted to know who I was and where I came from and what my history is and what my culture, my traditions, what are those? So it gave me an internal rebirth.
Can I just ask
yes.
a question? And I think this is a very, very important question, and it goes for every culture. How important is it to know your culture and know this is where you come from? This is how because I know that, your dad and your grandfather were also artists, but also to know how your mother cooked, to know and teach that to your daughters, and for every, whether you're African American or whether you're English or no matter what, you should know that.
Yes, and that's about having dignity, having pride in who you are. If you don't feel good about who you are, then you can't feel good about who other people are. If you don't feel good about, if I feel good about myself, I feel good about you. I feel good about everybody else. I think we need to know who we are, what our history is. We have to look at the past in order to build the future. If we don't, if we don't know
But what do you say about institutions that kind of say that they don't want, if you come here, you have to speak English. We shouldn't have to know Spanish. Or if you come here, don't open an Ethiopian restaurant, or there's too many Mexican food restaurants. I think, to me, that's offensive, because America has never been European.
We talk about a blend of many cultures as a society of many cultures. I think it's important for each to express themselves. We used to get spanked for speaking Spanish. I remember that. Elementary school, you know, we saw that paddles, you know. It was demonstrated to us many times. You know, in order for us to speak English, you know, we had to speak English. But that continues today, but in different forms. That's where you see microaggressions or micro racism. You know, it's the subtleness. You know, but it's still there. You know, but we're at a time also where we need to push those things aside and we need to focus on our futures. You know.
Thank
you. In art is a fantastic way, especially muralism. To bring that out, to share with everybody, you know. When I go do a mural someplace, I always talk to my helpers, my apprentices, the people of that area, the school, the community, what they would like to see. And if I can, I have them drawn, you know, so that they become a part of what takes place on that wall, you know. So if we're going to live in peace, I think it has to be an all-inclusive community, you know, respect for each other's ways, religions, you know. That's what I love about, you know, my ancestors are of this continent. I'm of indigenous blood. I have blood from the nations to the south of the border, and I have blood from the nations to the north, you know. And I love traditional ways. That's a whole nother life. I said I traveled multiple roads, you know, and that's been a part of it too. And that has also influenced my art. And it was all because of art that I begun these journeys, you know. So I'm grateful to Gilberto for the work that he did, for bringing that fire that lit my spirit, you know, that I was able to then begin to initiate other projects in the Centro, in Chicano Park. I was chairman of Toltecas and Aztlán at that time. I was also the director of the Centro Cultural de la Raza, and I was in a position to initiate the murals at Chicano Park, April 1973, you know. Toltecas and Aztlán. So I want to mention these guys. They did a lot of work down there. Arturo Román, Salvador Barajas, you know, Guillermo Roset, Ernesto Paul. You know, these guys, the Yama brothers, you know, there were so many people that came and helped, you know, that kept that. I remember that day. You know, we had just started celebrating the anniversary of Chicano Park. It was the third anniversary, 1973, fourth anniversary.
Wow.
Because we took that land, it was third anniversary. Okay, 73.
Wait, and this park started with the people, right? Like the people started this park.
Yes. You know, the city of San Diego had promised that community a park. You know, when they came through and put that bridge in there, or even before then, the city of San Diego had promised that community park. There's no park. There was junkyards and bunch of industrial shops and stuff like that. And when that space was there, the community approached the city of San Diego again. The city said, yes, we're going to do something for you. And then next thing people knew is they were putting a highway patrol station in underneath the bridge there. That's when the people decided, no, we're taking this land. We're going to make a park. We're going to create our own park because the city of San Diego was not responding, you know. So that's how it happened. And people came in, picks and shovels, and I remember this one guy coming down the road with a bulldozer with these big old claws on the back. So there was it was a beautiful, beautiful sight, you know. And from that point on, people just continued planting and doing things. And of course, the city of San Diego had no choice but to go along with us by that time, you know. So
now you're celebrating you have an event coming up celebrating 40 years, correct? Can you tell us about the event?
1970 to 2018, 48 years.
Wow.
40 years celebrating the 48th anniversary. You know, it's for us as Mexicanos, Chicanos. You know, I still use the word Chicano. I get I've used it for so long. It's one of our biggest celebrations, gatherings, and I think Chicano Park is symbolic of the struggles that we went through in the late 60s, the early 70s, and even prior to that. You know, the history just, you can keep going back, you know, to the time when Columbus landed on this coast. You know, there's some things that have taken place. And so that was like a symbol, you know, a piece of land under a bridge, you know, the last place most people would want to be, you know. But that was what was available to us. So we took it, we planted, and we created. And as artists, we jumped on those walls and painted. Yeah, we tried to do it legally. We met with the city of San Diego to find out that Caltrans owns the freeways, bridges, and stuff like that. So we finally managed to have a meeting with representatives of Caltrans along with the city of San Diego and the Chicano Federation, which was a collection of Chicano organizations throughout the county of San Diego. And try and discuss the possibility of permission to paint murals on those walls, on those pillars, on those embankments, on the concrete that surrounded us. And they said, well, certainly we can discuss it. And they wanted to schedule another meeting in about a month or so. And we had a celebration coming in about 2 or 3 weeks. So we thanked them and said, well, this isn't going to work. And that day came, and we went ahead and did it anyways, you know? So.
Hello.
And here you are. You tell us why the murals are so important to do and push through and get them done, even when you're not waiting for a yes.
Yeah. So I had 2 different people come to me, community members, activists, when after we had invited a crowd of about 400 people to come over and help us initiate those walls. There was at that time that was not that big of a group. There was few people, but there's probably about 400 people who were there celebrating music, dance, and everything. And then at some point, we wanted to invite everybody that was there to come and help us paint on these walls. Well, I don't know if you can imagine what that looked like. I mean, we had Daffy Duck, you know, TJ was here. We had all kinds of stuff happening, you know. There was a good friend, Jose Gomez, activist out of the Logan Heights community. He tapped me and he says, Guillermo, look what you've done. Because at that same moment, I was standing back from one of those first walls that we initiated. 2 walls, okay, the Quetzalcoatl wall and the historical wall. We initiated those 2 murals. And I was back from the Quetzalcoatl wall and standing on the sidewalk looking at what had just taken place. 400 people just randomly come in and everything that you could think of, you know. So I turned and I looked at Jose, and because you could see how upset he was, and it's like we made a mess or something. I mean, it was insane to see everything that everybody had done there. I can't even. I know there's photos. I got photos someplace, but he was upset. He came at me, I mean, verbally, look what you guys have done. Very calmly, I just turned because I knew what was happening. I turned and I looked at him and I said, "We just begun." When I told him that, that meant that commit myself to that wall, to the very end, till it was completed. Because here was a very important community member, Jose. He was a good friend. I understood what he was talking about. I looked at the wall and I thought, oh my God, what happened? Because we didn't go at it like we do today, like I do today. I prepare my drawings, I do my color studies. I grid the wall, or actually I prepare the wall with acid wash and primers and stuff like that. Gridded, transfer my images, so everything is pre-laid out. I know what's going to be there before I even start. Those walls, we had no idea, nothing. And so here we are, and then all these guys start coming over to me and they're saying, hey, what are we going to do now? I says, we got to start taking all the names and words and stuff and start pulling out what we see there. And so right away everybody turned around and went at that wall. I had another guy, very influential in the academic world, poet, activist, alurista, come to me after a little bit, after everybody started taking the names off. Hey, so-and-so says you took their name off the wall. And I just said, yeah, man. We talked about it, and we're responsible for what's taking place here, and we're gonna do what we need to do. And the first thing we're gonna do is take all the letters and names and placas that people put on there. And so that's what he just looked at me and says, all right, So we worked on that wall, on those walls for probably about 4 months, through the whole summer, probably early fall before we got done. Because we were going back and forth between different jobs, different projects, and but they finally got done. Yeah. You guys still there?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, it's
How much
amazing. These are like the murals that are in the Catholic churches. Amazing.
Yeah, they tell me that the Chicano Park murals, besides being a federally recognized or recognized as a federal landmark now, it has been acknowledged as the world's largest outdoor art museum. The world's largest outdoor art museum.
How amazing is that for everything you guys have fought for and had to do without them giving you the okay? They literally just said, this is yours. You are a national monument.
Yeah, that place has transformed not only a community but art in so many different ways. So yes, yeah. And after San Diego, every place began to explode with art, murals, There's a couple of documentaries. One is called Chicano Park, and then there's another one that's called Under the Bridge. I don't know if you've had a chance to see them, but I recommend them. It gives you a lot more in-depth history, and of course images. There's some images in there during when we first started on those walls, and then now we look at it almost 50 years later and see what has taken place, So.
And it's beautiful and it's so amazing. And me, I always have to be 100% honest. as a black woman, there's so much attention with the Black Lives Matters and everything that's going on. I don't think there's enough, focus, everything that's going on in the Latino community and the Mexican American community. So it was so amazing for you to just come on the show and shed that light, because it's not being shunned enough. I'm sorry, it's not.
Oh, yeah. One of the things I've noticed, it's like murals. We were talking about the movement today. It comes in waves.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like the tides. That energy, that consciousness, it comes in waves. I've seen it where even in my own life, I thought I figured out at one point every 13 to 15 years, something happens that transforms my life, or get another road, or I complete something. But there are some changes that take place in my life, like cycles, and they seem to happen every 13, 15 years. There's been some big important things that take place, and I see. So I saw murals also. I look at and I see murals come as waves. People are interested. I can go back over the years and see. Well, I did in this decade. I did 40 murals. In that decade, I did 5 murals. So the interest also comes in waves. Everything kind of flows and comes in waves. And the social consciousness
always, history always repeats itself. And we want to thank you for coming on the show. We've got about 45 seconds. I'm going to give Ed the last word.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you for sharing. And I mean, I'm beyond the word humbled would be an understatement. I'm just so honored to have you on the show. Thank you so much. Congratulations on 48 years and much success on another 48 years.
Thank you. Yes.
And
I take this opportunity. Yeah. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be with you.
Thank you.
Of course, everyone make sure you show up to the event April 21st at Coachella Park, right? So we're all going to be there and be supportive. So thank you for coming on the E-Water Show.
All right. E-Water Show, E-Water Radio, Yermo, and we're out of here. See you next week.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.